In this segment, we go over our fantasy picks for the week. At quarterback, I like Matt Ryan of the Falcons going into Minnesota to face the Vikings, as the Falcons should be able to put up some pretty big numbers there in Minnesota. I also like Phillip Rivers of the San Diego Chargers at home against the Jacksonville Jaguars, as the Jaguars have the worst defense in the NFL. They let up the most passing yards and most rushing yards. Even though the Chargers don't have Ryan Matthews, they should put up some big numbers through the air, and they actually should be relying heavily on that air attack, so they don't really have too much of a ground game. So then on the ground, at running back, I like Fred Jackson of the Buffalo Bills going into Houston to face the Texans. The Bills are a run-heavy team, and although they do split carries, Fred Jackson puts up some pretty good numbers, as he's a target coming out of the backfield to catch passes, and he gets yards on the ground as well. I also like DeMarco Murray of the Dallas Cowboys at home against the Saints, as DeMarco Murray has been putting up some pretty good numbers, as he's one of the league's top rushers, and going against that Saints defense that struggles on the road. Then at receiver, I like Eddie Royal of the San Diego Chargers going against Jacksonville for much of the same reasons that I like Phillip Rivers, and I think Eddie Royal should be one of his main targets, is that he seems to target Royal more than Floyd. And Royal, although doesn't necessarily get as many yards, he does get the touchdowns. He had 2 touchdowns last week. And against that weak passing defense of Jacksonville, he should have a big day. I also like Randall Cobb of the Green Bay Packers going against Chicago in Chicago. And Randall Cobb last year had a couple of touchdowns in Week 17 against the Bears as he came back from his injury. And so I expect him to have another big day against the Bears. The Bears have been looking pretty impressive, but the Packers are going to have to rely heavily on their passing game, and Aaron Rodgers is more than capable of getting some yards in that one and getting the ball to Cobb. So at tight end, I've got Jimmy Graham of the New Orleans Saints going into Dallas. I expect Graham to have a big game. He hasn't really put up too many numbers so far this season, but I think this will be his breakout week. The Cowboys' defense is not that strong. Plus, I expect the Saints to win this game, as they cannot lose a third game on the road for their third loss of the season in September. So I expect Jimmy Graham to have a big day there in Dallas. Moving on to kicker, I've got Dan Carpenter of the Buffalo Bills going into Houston to face the Texans. I think the Bills will be able to move the ball up and down the field, but I think they're going to struggle to get into the end zone, and that's where Dan Carpenter is going to come in to play, as he should get plenty of opportunities to kick some field goals. So I think he should put up some pretty good points, as he's been pretty reliable, and he's been pretty solid for the Bills this season so far. So now, last but not least, the defense. And at defense, I'm going with the New England Patriots, and they're going into Kansas City to face the Chiefs. Of course, going into Kansas City is usually difficult, but Tennessee was able to go there and win. The Chiefs did pick up their first victory against the Dolphins last week, who had actually beaten the Patriots. But the Patriots defense, with the anchor of Vince Wilfork and the way he's playing, they're one of the top defenses in the league. Their secondary is playing really good. They're causing turnovers all around. They're just one of the top defenses. And really, if you see, who's playing, who's got a bye week, and who's matching up against who, I think this is probably the best matchup for defense, at least in my opinion, for whatever that's worth. Those are my fantasy fortune picks for Week 4.
Fantasy Fortune!